7 a.m., the HOA president was on my dock, yelling about how my unauthorized boat was ruining our neighborhood lake, all while trespassing on my private land to threaten legal action over water I own. Karen Whitmore's stilettos dug into the cedar boards I'd stained by hand last summer, brandishing a cease and desist letter like it was a court order. This piece of junk is off this lake by Friday, Sterling, or I'm calling both my lawyer and the sheriff. $200 a day in penalties, and we're slapping a lien on this dump you live in. The diesel fumes from my restored '87 Chris Craft blended with her overpowering perfume as she pointed a blood-red fingernail at what she thought was just some eyesore. What Karen didn't realize was that the so-called community lake she kept raving about, all 47 acres, was legally mine. But the funny thing about bullies, they always announce their own downfall. So I just smiled, took a slow sip of coffee, and watched Karen lay the groundwork for the end of her HOA reign. What would you do if someone tried to take what's yours right in front of you? Leave a comment. Where are you tuning in from? And what's your worst HOA horror story? Let me rewind the clock 18 months to when this mess really kicked off. Name's Marcus Sterling, 52 years old. I spent 25 years managing logistics in the Army before I got wise and retired to the mountains. My late Uncle Theodore left me this little cabin on what I figured was just a nice quiet lake in Colorado. He was always the black sheep, kind of a recluse, but somehow managed to squirrel away cash in all kinds of places. The cabin itself? Nothing fancy. 2 beds, 1 bath, and a kitchen straight out of the '70s. But the view, that made it priceless. Sitting out back with a hot mug of coffee, watching the morning fog lift off still water while the loons called across the lake. That's the kind of quiet you don't know you've missed until you have it. The lake's shaped like a teardrop, 47 acres of glassy, untouched water, surrounded by a dozen humble homes. No showy mansions, just everyday people who wanted nice, peaceful places to retire. That's what I thought I'd found. Until Karen Whitmore showed up. She moved in 3 doors down, about half a year after I did. White BMW, 2 white smile, and lies to match. Everything about her screamed, I don't fit in here, but I'm taking charge anyway. She's 48, sells homes for a living, and married to some political hopeful named Derek who's trying to claw his way onto the city council. 2 weeks after they finished moving in, she somehow became HOA president. Funny how that happens when no one else wants the title. My first red flag should have been our introduction. I was on the dock, elbow deep in the engine of my boat, the old Chris Craft I'd rescued from a junkyard and brought back to life over 3 long years. Every bolt tightened by hand, every mahogany panel sanded and stained with care, every chrome detail polished. She strutted down in those absurd heels, gave me that phony real estate grin, and said, "Oh, you're the Army guy. Well, I hope you understand we hold certain standards around here." Certain standards, as if that line didn't reek of judgment. The boat quickly became her fixation. She claimed it was oversized, too noisy, didn't align with the visual harmony she envisioned for our lakeside neighborhood. Never mind that half the docks had vessels just as big. Never mind mine was easily the most elegant on the lake. Karen decided I was the issue, and when Karen made a decision, she expected compliance. Her perfume, something luxurious and no doubt overpriced, lingered on the dock long after she left. But the scent mingled with the honest smell of sun-warmed cedar shingles. The morning sun warmed the dock, mixing with the scent of creosote rising from the old pilings. And suddenly her presence felt like pollution, like someone had sprayed cheap air freshener in a wildflower meadow. The first violation notice showed up that Tuesday. Crisp, bright paper, stamped with the official HOA letterhead, packed with enough pseudo-legal jargon to scare anyone unfamiliar with how this stuff really works. Oversized recreational vessel violates visual standards as outlined in Covenant 14.7b. $200 fine per day until removal. Here's what military life teaches you. Never act without intel. So instead of flipping out, I started asking questions. Who was this woman who thought she could boss around a retired logistics officer on land he owns outright? More importantly, What did I not yet understand about the little inheritance Uncle Theodore left behind? Because if there's one golden rule I learned in 25 years of moving military assets across continents, it's this. The side with the sharpest info usually comes out on top. And I had a gut feeling Karen hadn't done nearly the level of research she should have. Karen, right after mailing out that first violation, she called an emergency HOA meeting.